Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. This is, quite frankly, part two. The first one, and I'm doing these back to back right now simply because I am. Okay, the sad reality is this. Okay, we have a massive pandemic here. For the first time in recent history, as in within the last, well, it's modern civilization. Let's only go back as far as the Industrial Revolution, shall we? Every country on the planet is agreeing on one thing. COVID-19 is a pandemic. It is killing people. Never mind the numbers, never mind where it started, never mind what happened. It's here, it is killing people. Your dollar, okay, is worth nothing to you if you're dead. Okay, I get all of this. Now I've been essentially reclusive for the last 10 years. So for the government to come to me personally and go, and I'm even personally as in the broadcast, stay home, stay away from people, drink coffee. For me, this was, well, where's the difference? However, I've got a son, like you have children. My son is not that reclusive. He'd like to be out seeing his friends, dealing with his friends, laughing and playing with them. Even to shake their hand, I suspect. Okay, for the first time in history, in recent history, and we're only going to go back as far as the Industrial Revolution at this point. Every country on the planet, as far as I'm aware of, is of the same opinion. And if for the ones that are questioning it, the other countries have all gone, we're not taking any of your people. Stay home. Now, for the first time in history, people have something that they all are agreeing with. It's got nothing to do with color. It's got nothing to do with social income, because let's face it, let's start with the reality of color. If it started in China, the Chinese are not Caucasian. They are not black. Okay, they are not red. They are a different color. And you'll notice it's taking out Chinese, it's taking out Canadians, Americans, Middle Easterners, and I'm not going to go through every one of the countries. It ain't going to happen. It's killing everybody from every walk of life. Your pocketbook, who you voted for, what station in life you hold, is not going to do a thing for you to protect any of it. Nothing. Okay, all these comparisons to the flu and the statistics that are being put out there. Understand, statistics are great in a limited way. Okay, most statistical information that is out there, people have learned to do what they've done with statistics from a marketing standpoint. Nobody that I'm aware of really wants this virus to continue. Okay, now there are some people I look at going, well, you watch the way they behaved, you know, maybe it wouldn't be such a bad loss. But the sad reality of it is that COVID is not the thing to negotiate with. It doesn't pick and choose. You can't point a finger at somebody and say, that person's guilty, so he should die because of COVID. Or that person is treating people poorly, so he should die by COVID. COVID won't cooperate. It won't. It'll kill everybody in the neighborhood if it gets its way. And understand, all COVID is doing is the same thing that mankind is doing. COVID is by nature, because it is alive, it is trying to survive, and it will kill anybody that gets in its way. Or more to the point, it'll kill anybody as it tries to pass along. Can we forget about the idea of whether this is real? Use a fraction of a bit of common sense. Yes, staying away from people is a pain in the neck, but if you're around people, the odds are. Okay, now get this. Okay, if you're staying home, granted, you won't be getting sick while you're staying at home. And I heard somebody tell me the other day that was just brilliant. The person, that individual, had been working from home for years, never got sick, got a job working with people, because their job collapsed. They went looking for a new one, ended up with a job working amongst people, and all of a sudden they started getting sick. Okay, because, and the person that told me this basically said they got sick because their immune system collapsed. No, genius, they got sick because they were not around people to start with. Therefore, the viruses had no way of getting to them. They went out amongst people. All of a sudden, the viri are able to get to them. Proximity. That's how they got sick. Being a recluse, you don't get the viruses. Now, I'm lucky. I've got the best of both worlds. Not only am I relatively reclusive, but I've got an immune system that is somewhat bizarre. Okay, and a healing rate that's even better. But the people that have been staying at home, okay, sure, they don't get sick that often. They go out, they start working with people, they get sick. Now get this. Try the reverse of that. Do you know anybody that while they're working is always fighting with illnesses one way or the other? They catch every flu, every cold that comes by. And they're working with people. They all of a sudden get everything swapped around, and you got to stay home. We're going to modify work. You can work from home. That same person no longer gets sick. Imagine that. They're not around people getting viruses. COVID is a virus. And I don't care how you look at it, the one thing we can safely say is COVID is not a computer virus. Okay. And yeah, I heard somebody tell me that the other day. They told me it was nothing but a computer virus. Brilliant concept. That came from a theoretically intelligent person. Theoretically educated. I call it theoretically because the number of people that are holding down positions in so-called educated positions and making absolutely ludicrous claims, such as, everything is on downhill. There are not as many people dying as what the governments are saying. The media is blowing it out of proportion. All of this. Okay. The people that are telling you that, you've really got to question. Are these people really that naive? Or are they just plain stupid? Okay. In other words, they know better. They're saying it anyway. Or are they just trying to kill people off? Now, the only people that it benefits, and I can say this from a whole lot of reasons, the only type of people that this kind of death toll does any good for is if you were running a mortuary and you were complaining that people weren't dying fast enough. Certainly, this will help that. People are dying. They aren't making it to the morgues, by the way. Okay, and check your own sources. My understanding is that they are being buried in some of the larger cities in mass graves. Now, mass grave, you can call it what you will. Normally, they don't call a mass grave 2 people at a time. Okay, they are being, and like I said, check your own sources. Talk to people. Never mind looking up on the net to see what's being reported. Because that neat little idea of the information is all corrupt. Now, I don't know who to trust. I don't know exactly who to trust either. What I do know is this. People have not learned, by and large, or so it would seem. The number of people I'm still hearing say, this is bogus. It's all the government conspiracy to take away our money. That money of yours, it's a great thing. And when you're dead, let's see you try and spend it. Let's see you try and enjoy that house that used to be worth $1 million and is now worth $500,000. Let's see how much difference that makes to you once you're dead. Let's see how cuddly you feel towards that special someone that you have been dating, or that you're married to. Let's see how warm and cuddly you feel when they drop dead, because you were selfish enough to go outside. You were stupid enough, and I call it stupid because you know better. Okay, it does not take a genius to figure out if you've got a plant that you like and you've got a forest fire. Setting the plant in the forest fire is not going to be good for its health. Well, setting your loved ones in a cesspool to make sure that their immune system doesn't get weak is not the wisest move you can make. Okay, I absolutely agree with people that tell me that the isolation has lowered people's, has made people a little bit less connected. But here's the thing. When I was a kid, every kid and their dog would go out and play in the dirt. They wouldn't sit there staring in an idiot box. They would go out, they would interact with people, they would get their hands dirty. Virtually every worker knew what the idea was of doing yard work. Okay, they didn't pay somebody to come and do it for them. Yes, there were exceptions, but it was not a way of life. It was that kind of self-induced isolation, of self-induced sanitation, that has compromised so many people's immune systems, so many people's health. Okay, now, right now, can we get past the idea that it's only killing the old people? There are staggering numbers of people that unfortunately have been burying their own kids. Now, I cannot tell you what that feels like, thankfully. I can tell you what it feels like to bury a brother and to watch my parents go through burying one of their own. But thankfully, I haven't had to do that, and I've got no intention on letting that on encouraging that to happen. But get off the idea that this is just going to go away. Okay, that your rights are being violated, that somebody's going after your precious pocketbook. Your pocketbook is 100% useless when you're dead. And by the way, it's already been proven beyond a shadow of doubt that once you're dead, what you write in the will is not necessarily what happens either. Okay. Nope, that didn't work. There are similarities to COVID-19 in all sorts of things. The one thing that COVID-19 has that none of the other viruses have, none of them, is every country on the planet has said this is a major problem, and they've shut down connections. They've stopped importing and exporting stuff, or limited it. They have stopped people from traveling to and from their countries, to the point that unfortunately many people got trapped outside of their countries away from home. I feel for those people because it's going to be a royal pain getting them home, trying to work with the travel agency, with the travel contingencies and government regulations. And if you think they're bad now, watch what happens if you don't start following them. When you don't work with them voluntarily, the government has no choice, effectively speaking, but to instill martial law. Now, for the people that grew up during World War II, during Vietnam, during all of that, all those unfortunate events, they know what it was like. COVID-19. That World War III everybody's worried about people whining and complaining about the dollar value and about what color who was, and we're going to fight those people because we don't agree with them? Okay, it was said years ago, I don't know who said it, don't care. Well, it's curiosity, but World War I will be fought with bullets. World War II will be fought with bombs. We don't know what World War III will be fought with, but World War IV will be fought with sticks and stones. Well, guess what? I have long held, for decades, World War III was going to be Mother Nature kicking back. She's had enough. Okay, and now what we have is a pandemic. Meaning, Mother Nature has turned around, and you can blame it on God, you can blame it on the Chinese, you can blame it on whoever you please. The reality is COVID-19 is here. COVID-19 is killing people. Okay, and it's not asking for birth certificates to find out what your bloodline is. It's not asking for your blood type. It's not checking who you voted for. And it's certainly not paying any attention at all to who you worship. So for those of you that are out there going, I believe in God and I'll pray and COVID will be wiped away. Yeah, no. The way that works is COVID gets wiped away, absolutely. If you're dead, you can no longer spread it because you ain't going anywhere. Okay, however, the virus itself is now going airborne, which means once you've got it, it kills you off and then jumps to the next person it can get to. Okay, now there's all sorts of different information. I have no idea how many of the scientists figure this out. But apparently it lingers in the air now for 3 days. Well, guess what? If you've got COVID in the air and it lingers for 3 days, you can bet your bottom dollar it isn't staying in the same place. Which means it has gone completely airborne. If it's hanging in the air for 3 days, when you take wind current into consideration, 3 days, a particle of wind can get a pretty fair distance. I mean, heck, back when Mount St. Helens blew up. Okay, and do your own research to figure out where that is. It blew up. I was living in Kelowna, BC at the time, in Canada. And when Mount St. Helens in Washington State, USA blew up, we ended up almost immediately, like literally within days, we ended up with the ash. And the ash is a lot heavier than COVID. With the ash in our backyard, coating our car. Now, COVID, if it's already proven to hang in the air for 3 days, that means that COVID can start in one state and get all the way across the country in a few days. And understand, it gets partway there, it settles down, it stops going anywhere, somebody else gets it there, and it goes back into the air. Kind of like a game of leapfrog. A deadly game of leapfrog, mind you. Okay. Now, I'm telling you right now, trying to go overboard and trying to improve your air purification systems and what have you, good luck with that. There isn't one in existence that will stop that much. Okay. Clearly, we know this because, well, if it was built in a lab, if that's where everybody's saying that's where it started, understand the labs have a lot better security systems and air filtration systems than you're going to find on the open market. Quit trying to figure out how long this is going to take because, it undoubtedly will be sorted out sooner than people are projecting. Okay. When they talk about this going on for a year, okay, I was looking on the internet and assuming that you take for granted what's on the internet, but every place I found, and I'm not good with the net to start with, said the bubonic plague lasted for approximately 5 years. Now, at that time, they didn't have any of the scientific background. Now they do. And from everything I've come to understand, they're working on something right now that is leading. It's going to be a while before they actually pull it all together and can quantify it. But they've got the right track. Now, I'm not a scientist. I'm not connected to the government in any way other than I have to pay taxes like many of you. But understand, I am so tired of hearing people go, this is just a farce. Okay. It is absolutely irresponsible to go, it's a farce. We should all be able to go out and get back to life the way it was. Well, life the way it was is exactly what put you into the situation you're in now. And again, if you're aiming and if you're hoping to kill off billions of people, and you'll notice I said billion with a B. Okay, if you're hoping to do that, absolutely. Kill the quarantine off. Let people go and interact. Okay, let people interact. Let your friends and your family get close to people that are known ill. Okay. I mean, that works like a charm. Now, in case you hadn't noticed it, and I know some genius out there is going to go, well, he said to do it. There is a funny thing called sarcasm. Okay. There's a really sad thing called reality. The reality is COVID-19 is killing people without considering who they are. Okay, it doesn't matter what profession you're in, it's still going to take you out if it gets to you. Now, yeah, you may be one of the lucky ones that can recover from it, like one gentleman that I met the other day. Okay, I was walking through the park because I've still got the freedom, and we still have the freedom to do that. And since we've still got the freedom to do that, I was walking through the park, and there was a chap sitting there. Okay, and I was coming close to him, and he called my attention and told me to stay away. Right. And I stopped because that's what he asked. And then he went on to explain. He never made it to the hospital, but he did listen to what was being said. And from what he said, from what he gathered, the first symptom he got, what he did voluntarily, he wasn't told he had to. He voluntarily took the information he had and went, and he turned to his wife and he goes, "Look, I've got this symptom. I'm worried I might have COVID. I can't get to the hospital right now, so go out now. Do a month's grocery shopping. Because we're being locked in. We are locking the door. When you get home with the month's grocery shopping," okay, and this was a few months back this happened to him, before everything went into lockdown. Okay, right after it happened, shortly after it had come out that self-isolation was an idea. At that time, they said 2 weeks. Well, what this guy had done was he said, go out, get our month's grocery shopping, come home. We're not leaving anywhere, right? We're locking the door. So he voluntarily isolated, not for 2 weeks, he isolated for 3. Okay. Then, and when that happened, next thing he knew, he ended up, according to him, he himself came down with all the symptoms. Now, fortunately, there were 2 real fortunate things. 1, he recovered. 2, Lord knows how, but his wife didn't get it. Okay. Even stuck in the same house with him, she didn't get it. But they never left the house. Not for 2 weeks. They never left the house for 3 weeks. This guy was not medically trained. Okay, he was a senior citizen. And he simply isolated himself and stayed at home until he had recovered enough to move. Then, when he got out in public, like I said, I didn't even get within 10 feet, and he had called me because I had said good morning. He turned around and he told me to stay back because he was keeping it at 10 to 15 feet. That was his choice. It was voluntary. Okay, you're being asked by the government to voluntarily self-isolate. Okay, to keep your meetings down to a minimum. Now, I don't see the big problem, other than you don't have the freedom to get close to somebody so you can get in, so that you can get sick. You know, it's funny when we talk about viruses and illness and immune systems. You know, you try and teach your kid to wash their hands to try and keep them safe. That's a great idea. I don't hear of anybody saying, "Oh, that'll affect your immune system." So, how about if you go swimming in a cesspool? There's an idea. We'll build your immune system. Go dive into the cesspool and see what happens. And don't anybody do that. I mean, for pity's sakes. And I see this with a lot of the media going, you know, they'll take something right out of context. There is a thing called intelligence. Now, you can't legislate intelligence. You can absolutely legislate isolation, or more to the point, they can enforce it. Right now, you've got the voluntary option of staying home and using a little bit of your intelligence. Just a little bit. Itty bitty bit. Common sense, people. If you're working in the medical profession, quit telling people that we should open the doors. If you figure that you're swamped right now, wait till you see what happens then. Right now, you're dealing with dozens, hundreds, thousands of people that are ill. Millions that have been diagnosed, and that's only the ones that have been checked. Now understand, this concept of trying to isolate people based on if they're ill, isolate them, don't let them work. That's great, except COVID is asymptomatic. So half those people that are out there, okay, that aren't diagnosed are still out there. So they're allowed to work, and that's okay, because you don't know they're sick. You know the idea, what you don't know can't hurt you. Guess what? You don't have to know a car is coming from behind you for it to hurt you when it runs into you. You don't have to know where the lightning came from for it to hurt. You don't have to understand how gravity works for falling down a staircase to hurt. What you don't know can kill you and is killing people. So for pity's sakes, work together. Stay home, self-isolate. People are modifying businesses. There's lots of government programs out there to help you deal with the finances. Yeah, the money had to come from somewhere, and that's a whole different ballgame. That's their department. But the reality is that the government is working to try and help you through this. Okay, they are doing what they can. For the people that are having trouble coping, there are lines opening up all the time for people to talk to, for people to try and get a handle on things, especially people that deal with those neat little problems of claustrophobia and feeling that you're being isolated too much, etc. There are coping mechanisms being put in place. Governments have them. The internet is chock full of them. Okay. Well, we're going to bring this to a close. We're not finished by any stretch. But, that said, at this point, we're going to bring it to a close. Until we talk again, take care of each other and yourselves, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.